Yo, 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 yo. Good God. Thursday morning, man. It is Thursday. This week has been slow for me. But that's hey, it's the weekend. Almost. Um, Trigger me Thursday. Trigger Thursday with your GPS. That's me. God's personal servant, your GPS. Um, uh, so I just want to check in with everybody and those who've been watching. How have you been dealing with your triggers? How have you been dealing with the revelation when you take time to find out what has been triggering you? What has been your thoughts? What's been your process? What has been some things where it's like, oh, yeah, that triggered me, that bothered me. Oh, I didn't realize that I was still dealing with that. We sometimes feel that once we deal with a situation once, it don't never come back up. And that's not true. The same things that our memory play can play the same memory over and over. Things happen, your responses, sometimes, and even with arguments, right? We say when we argue, you've been complaining and saying the same thing, you know, and sometimes it's like in that moment you feel the same way. You may feel the same exact way as you felt in an argument 7 months ago. And some of the thing is why is because some of the words, some of the maybe the tension, maybe the height, maybe you're not being understood, whatever. It brings back that same feeling, the same feeling that you had dealt with 30 years ago. So then when you get into heated discussions or emotional feelings and, sad feelings, because all emotions are, let me say sad feelings or depressed feelings, and you dealing with these type of things, you feel like, man, I'm not overcoming. But you have to look at the situation in a whole. Look, when you're looking at the situation in a whole, find progress in that, because honestly, there are things that will go. We either can get better or we get worse. We get into things put in the fire so we can so it can reveal who we are. Being going through something, and when you go through life and go through situations and you go through stuff, go through tests, it's revealing where you are. It's revealing the things that you're dealing with. It's revealing the scopes that your vision, so we get into a place of feeling like, dang, here we go again. It's the same stuff. Oh my God. But look at yourself and say, how did I handle it differently? Did I get worse? Because this argument definitely triggered me. Those statements definitely triggered me. Those things definitely bothered me. And so we're looking still with the person at the person, but we now have to look at ourselves and say, did I respond right? Did I hear right? Because sometimes we can know that we're going into an argument and we can start hearing differently. We don't allow the person to completely speak. We don't allow the situation to kind of be ease. We raise our voice. We do all these things. We automatically go to fight or flight. We automatically go to a place where, man, oh no, let me make sure we about to go here. Let me get my bearings up. And sometimes because we go in protective mode. But all of that, sometimes that's when we switch easily in protective mode, that's when we put the flame to the fire, to the ignition. That's when we put more gas to the flame. That's when we really light it up, when we change our position and how we feeling, because we know we about to argue, or we know they said something slick, or oh my God, they yelled, and so we want to control everybody responses to us, but that's not our responsibility. We can't control other people's responses to us. We control our responses. We control our actions. We control what we do. We control what we say. We control how we add peace, or how we add anger, how we, how we do things. So when we're being triggered, I just want to encourage you. Look at your growth. Look at where you are and say, you know what? It may be the same issue. Because I still feel unvalid. I still feel unheard. I still feel misunderstood. But I didn't go off in 10 seconds. I maybe now went off in 1 minute. And so you got to give yourself that time and give yourself that grace. Sometimes you even find out, well, okay, I hear things differently. Um, and it don't even got nothing to do with my conversation with me. Sometimes we hear stuff with other people, or we hear situations and stories about other people, or somebody come to us with our friends or whatever and explaining the situation to us, and we end up personalizing, internalizing that thing. Why? Because part of us had got to a place of, wait a minute, what that said resonated with me, what that said bothered me. It didn't even have nothing to do with you, but you end up being triggered by another situation that it had nothing to do with you. But when we realize, when we got to take a moment and say, why did that bother me? Why did that affect me? Because it was something dealing in that situation that resonated with you, that made you have a feeling that you had before from a trauma, that made that wound get activated, that made that scar, because we have scars and they are closed up, but we still have that scar in our muscles, and the muscles and the touch of it sometimes still bother us. It still flare up. I had a surgery in 2013. To this day, if I'm not feeling well, if if something going on, I can touch it, graze by it, and it still bothers me from a touch. So wounds can be closed, but that don't mean they not bothered. So that's why we have to see. Oh man, you touched my wound. Oh, that touched my wound. Oh, that bothered me. So when we get into a place of that, just take some time, take a couple of deep breaths, take some things where it's like, man, some things happen, and be like, yo, oh my God, let me grace myself. You know what? I realized that wasn't them, that was me. So it put us in a place of accountability when we start looking at ourselves, to encourage ourselves, to brace yourself, to say, I got this. Yeah, once again, this is familiar, the same feeling, the same thing, but it's going to be a different outcome. So Trigger Thursday, you may get triggered by the same situation, have the same feelings and the same emotions, and you gear yourself up for certain things that happened before that bothered you. So you become protective. But even in the midst of you becoming protective, look at yourself once again, to not be so defensive and responsive that you don't even hear the story or the situation or the problem. Just automatically go. That's something I'm working with y'all. So I want to encourage y'all to keep doing it, keep observing yourself, keep looking at yourself, keep holding yourself accountable. If nobody else do, hold yourself accountable, because this is your walk, this is your life, this is your journey, and all the responses to create a piece for you is up to you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for tagging, liking, and sharing. I am none other than your GPS, God's personal servant, Marnisha MT. That is me. I love you. Say a kind word to someone, encourage someone, but most of all, walk in grace with who you are.